Good afternoon, everyone. It is right at 3:30. I apologize. Yes, I see there is audio, but hopefully you are able to hear me. I was just muted for a bit right until 3:30. I am going to put the bit.ly in the chat, but you should also see it on the screen as well. Let me put that back in there. Oh, perfect. I'm glad that you can hear me now. Awesome. All right. So welcome everyone. Today's SchoolNet webinar is Make It Personal, Learner Profiles in SchoolNet. I'm going to give everybody just a minute to get that bit.ly off the screen or either from the chat. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for taking time out of your Monday afternoon to join us. And let's see here. There we go. All right, so first thing, we're going to introduce ourselves and say hello, and thank you again for being here. My name is Rebecca Stokes. I'm the SchoolNet Product Manager for NCDPI, and we have the wonderful Catherine Simone with us as well. Catherine, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I was muted. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see some of you again. I see some of the same people on the call and hope we'll get chatting about learning profiles today, everyone.
Yes, perfect. All right, let's see here. All right, so our agenda for today is we're going to talk about how users can access student profiles and what data is included in a student profile. We're also going to talk about how or what teachers can add to a student profile, as well as what students can add to a student profile. And then we're going to share some resources, and we always put questions at the end, but please know, and hopefully you do if you have been with us before, you can put your questions in the chat at any time, or you can unmute and ask us. We are happy to stop and go ahead and answer a question while we're already on it. So please do not feel like you have to save questions to the end. Please feel free to ask them whenever they come to you, because if you're anything like me, if you wait, you might forget if you wait till the very end. So we encourage you to go ahead and ask them. All right, so first thing I do want to talk about is CEU questions for today's presentation. So if you are in the live webinar, which you guys are, you will receive 0.1 CEUs, which is equal to 1 hour of credit. And just remember that 10 hours of credit equals a full CEU. And you only get that if you are participating in the live session. The type of credit that you get is determined by your school or district when you go through the approval process that your district has. Matthew, I see that you said mute is locked. I apologize for that. So if you have a question that you want to unmute, you can just put in there that you want to unmute and one of us can unmute you, or you can just type it in the chat. But usually about a week after the session, I will email everyone a copy of the presentation as well as your CEU certificate for you to then be able to turn into your district. Like I said, it's usually about 5 days, but it is NC Ties week, so I hope to see a lot of you at NC Ties. So I'm hoping to do it before NC Ties starts for me on Wednesday. So hopefully I'll get it out tomorrow, but if not, it'll definitely be by the end of the week, if not Monday. And if anybody happens to ask you in your district about CEUs for watching the recording of the webinar, we cannot give CEUs for watching the recording, only if you are live with us in the webinar. All right, so just a few WebEx housekeepings. If you have questions, again, you can enter them in the chat. You can direct it to just panelists, which are Catherine and myself, or you can put it to everyone. We would love for you to interact with us during the webinar. And if you put it to everyone, just know that everybody can see your question, which we would encourage because it might be that someone else has that same question. And if you need any assistance with the platform, we do have a guide here in the presentation for WebEx if you have any questions about that. And let's keep going. Okay, so we are going to be using the training site for today. Catherine and I always build these presentations, but we end up doing live demonstrations in the training site. We just prefer that method, but we do have this presentation for you to keep for you to reference back to, and we're going to follow along in the presentation, but just be in the live site. So we would love for you to join us in the live site if you would like to follow along and click where we're clicking as well. We do have a link to that training site right here, as well as a username and a password for you. And just in case we had new people join us, I am going to drop the
The bit.ly.
presentation bit.ly
I
one
can do
more
that
time.
if you want.
Oh, sorry, I just did it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you though. Okay. All right, so before I get to the training site, we do want to go ahead and talk about how users can access student profiles. So there's several different ways, and we have it broken down into teachers and leadership. So depending on what rights you have for SchoolNet in PowerSchool will determine how you can access those student profiles. And we're going to go through each of these. So I'm just going to read them out, but just know that we are going to go through all of them. So teachers, you have options of getting to the student profiles through the Choose a Section widget, the Classroom Assessment Monitor, the Classroom Profile widget, any of your reports, the reporting dashboard, and student workspaces. And then if you have a leadership role, you have the option of a student search. You also can access through the Choose a Section widget, the Classroom Assessment Monitor, the Classroom Profile widget, and the reporting dashboard as well. So just a few differences depending on your role, but like I said, there are numerous ways to get to this information. All right, I think now is when I'm going to go to the live site.
Rebecca, just in case you need it, I have two browsers open, one as an admin and one as a teacher. So let me know if you
Okay.
need to switch back and forth. Okay.
All right, perfect. All right, so I already put the login there just so it wouldn't time out on me. So I am going to log in as a teacher, and let me make this large again. Okay, and Catherine, if you can let me know at any time if I am not sharing the correct screen, because I forget sometimes.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, so I am logged in, and actually, I just remembered I'm going to cut my camera off because I am sharing this, that sometimes it slows the system down. So let me cut this off. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. All right, so I am logged in as a teacher. So this is what your screen should look like as a teacher. And the first page that we want to talk to you about for getting to the student profiles is on the Choose a Section widget. And if you are on your homepage, it's this section right here where it says Choose a Section. I'm going to click down and let's just click here. And then you can see that it changes all of this down here. Okay. So I'm going to choose my section. And then if I scroll down to the Classroom Assessment Monitor, I can see the students listed here. Okay. So anything blue here with the students, that's hyperlinked, letting you know that it's going to link you to their student profile. Okay, so just one more time, I'm going to choose my section, and then it's going to change my Classroom Assessment Monitor to that section, and then I can come down and I can click on a student. Let's just choose this one, and now I am in the student's profile.
Rebecca, if you go back to the
Mhm.
home screen real quick, I just want to interject there.
Always.
And you see this in the PowerPoint. While this is a teacher's login, the teacher has the option to choose their sections. If you are an admin, the only difference in this choose a section screen is that you would, if you are school leadership, you would need to choose a teacher and then choose the section. If you are district leadership, you would need to choose the school first and then the teacher and then the section. So depending, to sum that up, depending on your permissions, you have more filters in the choose a section widget. Okay. And I believe we have a screenshot of that in the PowerPoint.
And Catherine, I'd be happy to stop sharing my screen if you want to just pull up that admin
Oh,
login that you
sure.
have, just so we can show.
I can do that real quick. I can show that.
Let's see, I think I have to stop.
Okay, so still here, this is what I was referring to. Someone with district leadership, theirs would default here. They would pick a school, a teacher. I picked the teacher that only had one section. Let me see if I can find another one. Um, okay, a teacher with multiple sections, a section. And then from here, everything beneath it switches. As Rebecca said, there's a student here. Every student's hyperlinked. You basically have the same view. You just need to few extra clicks to filter down. That's all.
All right, so we talked about the classroom assessment monitor and how you can scroll and get to the student's profile there. The next option is just for, let's see, and if Catherine, you let me know if there's anything that I'm forgetting to say,
Okay, good.
but in this classroom assessment monitor, you can filter over here for students by overall performance or performance by standard. You can also filter if you just want to look for students in a certain score group and then go to their profile. So you can filter by these different score groups and then access that student's profile from there. And again, they're just hyperlinked and it'll take you right to that student's profile. Okay, but that's in the classroom assessment monitor. Again, that's for leadership and teachers. The next option of getting to a student's profile is only in a teacher view or with someone with teacher rights, and that is the classroom profile. So if you keep scrolling on your homepage past the assessment monitor, then you will see the classroom profile where it's going to list all of your students, a quick access to the student's phone number and birthday. And again, it's hyperlinked for you to be able to click on it and it'll link you right to that student's profile. And everything does sync from PowerSchool, so you know that the phone number and the birth date are what is listed for that student as well. But this is just going to be viewing by the roster. You can view by student groups if you have groups set up. You can do benchmark results. You can do grades. But it's just going to default at roster. Okay, let's see here. See what our next
The
option
next one
is
is from the
from
reporting dashboard.
reports. Okay, so before we move into the reporting dashboard, did anybody have a question about how to access the student profiles from the homepage? Didn't have the chat up.
Nope, I don't have any in the chat. I re-added the bit.ly because we did have
Okay,
a couple additional people join. So
perfect. All right, well, thank you. All right, so if we go over to on the left-hand side where it says reporting, then we can go to our reporting dashboard. Okay, and then from here, I'm just going to choose, let me choose one that has more than 2 students. I'm going to just choose this assessment right here. And on the test summary, then we can scroll down and we're going to see those students. And again, they're hyperlinked, so it'll take us right to their profile. So you can either sort just by the student here, you could do the subgroup, the standard. I don't recommend doing standard because as you can see, that's just going to sort their percentage scores and not actually list those out. So I would keep it by student if this is how you're going to access those student profiles. Let's see here. If you are in leadership, same thing that Catherine was saying earlier, it's not going to, you're going to have to choose, if you're a school leadership, then you would have to choose the teacher and then you would have to choose their section and then you would choose their assessment that you're looking for. And if you're district, you would have to choose the school up here, then the teacher, and then the assessment if you wanted to access it this way. Okay. Let's see. All right. Oh,
back to the
Catherine, were you about to say
reporting
something?
dashboard. If you click back on the reporting dashboard from that screen, if you're not drilling down through a test, right under the teacher's name, you see the tab that says test results and student reports. If you click on student reports this time, now you get a list of students and their most recent test, days enrolled, attendance rate, and here again, you can click on a student and go right to the profile.
Uh-oh, I lost my back button. Hold up.
Just click home.
I was like, oh no, let me go home. There we go. Right. Let's see. I think. Oh, thank you, because I had skipped over reporting dashboard. Okay, so we've got two more places that you can search for the student profiles, and this one is going to be from
Place-
this. Oh, say it again.
You have workplaces next in the
Yep,
PowerPoint.
student workspaces. So if we come over to the classroom tab and we hit that arrow down, then you can see student workspaces right here. If I click on that, then let me choose, let's go with math right here. And it's going to show us that same screen here where it's going to list out our students. We can also search workspaces by name. So you can type a student's name in here and it will filter just by that student, but we can click to right here. Oh, that's creating a portfolio. I apologize. Let's see. Yep. So when we click there, that's where we are going to actually start creating and putting information into the student's workspace. But we're going to get to that in just a minute. We just want to show you how to access it first. Okay. And it'll list out their portfolio items and their work items here once we have some information in there.
So the difference, other than needing to drill down from the district, school to teacher in a leadership homepage, is that someone with leadership rights and permissions from Power School will have this search bar up in the top right. The great thing about this, what I love, is you can search for a student one of two ways. You can search using their ID from Power School, or you can search by just starting to spell the letters of their name. Now, remember, we're in the training site, it's scrambled, so everyone is student in here. But if you see, I start typing S, T, okay, these are scrambled names, but I could have easily put 1641493 in and it would start to populate. Once it'll narrow down, obviously, the more letters, numbers you enter when you find the student you want. If you get through the entire last name, add a comma, and then you can start on the first name if you need to continue. But once you click on the student, it then loads the same profile page that we've been referring back to there. Okay. And then from there, I think our next slide, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to start talking about actually what we're going to find in this student profile.
Yes, that is
So,
correct.
okay. So if you're looking at the PowerPoint and following along, the slide says what data is included in the student profile. And to the right, it gives a bulleted list. And the bulleted list follows these tabs in the student profile. Okay. I'm going to try to find a student that just has a little bit more data for you so that we can maybe make this. Oh, perfect. Here we go. We have one that's a little bit more interesting. So on the first tab, which is always where you land when you go to look at up a student, we see their name, we see their grade level, their school, their student ID. This is the overview page, and it gives us their personal information, phone number, birthday, etc., their current enrollment school, grade, homeroom, days enrolled, days absent, tardy, and discipline actions. There is a listing for LEP, gifted and talented. We do not pull special education data in SchoolNet for North Carolina. So you are going to see NA there rather than yes or no. For the other two programs, you will either see a yes or a no for that particular student. As you scroll down on the overview page, we see the list of the students' current classes, current sections they are enrolled in. So this information comes straight from PowerSchool, the code for the course section, the teacher's name, and the school. Depending on how the school is sending grades, um, some of them may say semester one, semester two, some may be listed in trimesters. Remember, this is the training site. Some may be listed in marking periods or quarters. So, however, your school tracks student grades, that's what will be displayed here. At the end of each marking period, trimester, etc., the grades will populate from PowerSchool and you will see them here. Now, high school folks, just a reminder, if there is not a check, but a course is listed, that's probably a semester course, and they would have had that class maybe in the fall semester, and I'm looking at it in the spring, so there's no longer a check here, but their grade from the fall semester is populating there. Okay.
And I did want to say one other thing about the
Sure.
grades, Catherine. So the grades are only going to populate once the data manager has stored the grades. So if you go to a student's profile, and let's just say we're in term one or quarter one, and you don't see a grade, it's because they haven't been stored yet. So it's not going to update every time a grade is entered into the grade book. It's only going to be when your data manager has stored the grades.
Good to know. At the bottom, the very bottom of this overview page, you're going to see the most recent last test for ELA and math, the student's overall grade, their performance. There'll be a link to take you to the test, and then it will list a short standards report for them. Okay. Going back to the top, while we have not loaded data for this recently, as far as EOGs and EOCs, we are working on that from last year's data, waiting for those files to come over to SchoolNet. But you will see now this particular student is an 8th grader, so you see there's data in here from pre-COVID when the last time they took the test, and then we didn't have any scores for a couple years, so now we're trying to get back to loading the scores. One thing I want to note here is we do have a few districts that transmit files from other sources. Specifically, we have Star Renaissance assessments are synced nightly to SchoolNet. That's one vendor that works with us very closely in SchoolNet. And that data comes over to SchoolNet. So that would also appear under standardized tests. Okay. Then next tab, we have discipline. Oh, this was a great child. We did not have any discipline events, but if there were, they would appear here. On this tab, I think Rebecca had a screenshot in the PowerPoint of an example of a student that had some incidences that were recorded. So you have that view. Just a reminder, I think we said this in the beginning, but I want to repeat it here because some of the data now gets a little bit more sensitive as we move across the tabs with the specific student information. Only users, teachers, leadership that have permissions in PowerSchool to access the student will have access in SchoolNet. Okay, so same rules apply. If you are a teacher and this child is not in any of your classes, you will not be able to view this child's data. Okay, just to reiterate that. The next tab is enrollment and academic record. And I like this feature because if I am getting a new class in September, I can look at my students and see information from previous years. I can see, was this a child that had perfect attendance? Did they miss a few days or did they miss a lot of days last year? Okay. So you can scroll through and you can go back and see the child's attendance information. If they came from another district or school within North Carolina, you would see that information here. And then at the bottom, just like on the overview page where you saw their academic record, their classes, there are plus signs and you can open up the previous year. So now you're looking at this particular student's grades from 21-22. I can go back 2021 and all the way back through their history in North Carolina schools to view their performance. Okay. The next tab gives us a summary of those program fields that we had talked about in the overview. Now, remember, we do not pull special education program data. So this is going to show us, I believe these are your gifted codes here, if I'm not mistaken. If this was LEP, that would be listed here. And you would see each year that the student was enrolled in the program. So just a side note about programs. Program data has a start and end date in PowerSchool, and that's what populates the years. So a child may have been IG in 2022, 23, but not in 21, 22. Okay, so it's dependent on this enrollment date and exit date here. Okay. Any questions so far?
None in the chat.
Okay. All right. Moving across, we have the benchmark tests. And this tab will display all tests the student has submitted if the tests were either school level or district level tests. That's what's considered a benchmark. That's in comparison to the next tab, which is a classroom test, which is a teacher created test. So these two tabs separate the test category, but they both work in the same manner, that we're going to get the subject name, the name of the test, the date of the test, the date and time the student submitted the test, their score in a percentage and raw score, and then their score group. From here, just like clicking on students, anything blue is a link. When I click on this test, it will open up basically an item summary for just this student. So we'll see the standard for the question, the correct answer, and what the student answered. Now, if there are restrictions on the test, you will not have this blue view link. If there are no restrictions on the test and the content is not restricted, you will be able to click on the view. And in a second, when my Zoom, I have so many tabs open for this PowerPoint. So let's see if I can get it to load. Come on, you can do it. Anyway, it will show you an example of the question for that particular student. Let me see if I can close some of these. get it to work. I seem to be frozen in time on that tab, so I'm not going to waste time with that. But the classroom tab will do the same thing. Oh, now I'm really frozen in time. Come on, you can do it, computer.
And I can take over and share mine if needed.
You might have to. Let me see if I can go back a screen here. Or I'm just going to cut this student and see if I can start all over again. Nope, my screen is frozen. I am so sorry, Rebecca.
You're good.
Your turn.
All right.
Tag.
Okay, let's see here.
Thank you, Matthew. He said it happens.
Ah, yes. Okay. All right.
Try to reboot
So
while you're doing that.
I'm just going to so now just remember I am in a teacher login, whereas Catherine was in a leadership. So that's why that student search bar is no longer here. Um, And same thing, I wanted to just show you in the teacher view with the disciplinary incidents. Notice that it says you do not have permissions because that is only if I were to have leadership rights. And since I have teacher rights and not leadership rights, I cannot see this. So you can only see that in the leadership view, but just so you can see what it looks like in the teacher's view. So I believe, Catherine, you went to benchmark test and
Yeah.
then you clicked on a test.
Yep.
And then we were trying to view a question. Let's see if it freezes on me too. If so, then we just don't need to click on that in our training site.
The one thing I didn't get to show is the drop down for the changing of the year, Rebecca.
Oh,
So,
there we go.
um,
Okay, I can go back to that.
oh,
So I clicked on view beside question number 1, and it's showing me the passage, and it's giving me that score response distribution that we normally see in our reporting tabs on our assessment, and it'll give me the question. It'll tell me the correct answer, what the student responded with. And what I really like is being able to see what the most common error was. And it'll also, of course, always show you the standard and the properties of that question as well. Um, so this is, like I said, this score response distribution is in your list of reports for any assessment, but it's nice to know that you can get to it this way as well. That's one of the great things about SchoolNet is there are multiple ways to get to what it is that you're looking for. And I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But don't forget you have this create PDF option here where you can create a PDF of this information. If you had to, if for PLCs, if they wanted you to print out things to bring to PLC instead of bringing your device, then you can do that.
so
Okay,
there she
so
goes. She's ahead of the PowerPoint
do
again.
what?
You're ahead of the
I'm
PowerPoint.
sorry. I saw it and I was like, oh, did we mention that? I always do that. Okay. All right. So I was here and let's see. Am I
Oh, can you
missing the
show at the
drop down?
top there? See where it says show filters? That's what I
Thank
wanted
you.
to show.
I was used to seeing the little year thing over here.
Yeah,
All
no,
right,
I
so I
got frozen.
can, uh-oh, I
That
don't,
child probably doesn't have another year, but if they did, you could change the year and drop it back a year to see tests from a previous year for that student. Um,
let's see if I can pick somebody else just to see if they have
yeah,
previous
I'm
years.
back
Nope.
in. I'm back in to the leadership, and the same student has multiple years because they were an eighth grader. Um, if you want me to show that, I can, Rebecca.
Sure. I mean, I am perfectly fine showing them all the views in case we have, leadership on
Yep.
the call
Okay.
or teachers. So,
Let me share that right now, real quick, and jump to that. Share. And you're seeing my SchoolNet. And what I
mhm.
wanted to show you was that same student I was in before, benchmark tab. I can click hide filters, show filters, and now this student has another year, and I can see additional tests for the previous year. Same thing here. show filters, drop back a year, and I can see their tests from the previous year. The other neat feature about this, we're looking at results here where it says show tests, but I can switch and say show standards. So for this student, remember these are scrambled tests, but any ELA standards would be listed here, and their last test they took and their last assessed score and score group for that particular standard. So just a couple of options there for this for viewing student information. And then I think in the PowerPoint, we were up to, after that, right? We're moving on from this tab to the actual learner plan and teacher notes. If
Yep, so we were pausing just because all of the tabs that Catherine has gone through so far, there's nothing that you can change. That's all things that are synced from PowerSchool or either are showing assessment results. So there's nothing you can add in those. But the next two tabs are we're going to show what teachers can add to a student's profile.
and I'm going to answer someone in the chat. It says, I am an EC teacher. This will be really awesome if I could use this for the students I could service. I cannot wait to share this thank you with my coworkers, how beneficial this would be to them. So I just want to clarify something about this comment. By EC teacher, does that mean you're a co-teacher with another teacher in a classroom? No resource. So you have your own class assigned in PowerSchool. Okay. So then you would have this access. I just want to add a side note here that we did not include in the PowerPoint because this is such a good comment here that it reminded me of something. If you are in a classroom with another teacher and you are not the primary teacher in PowerSchool, you can request access to the sections, and then you would have all the same views as the primary teacher for the class. And we have a little sheet that provides directions that we would be happy to send out to you for that. But I just want to bring that up right at this point in the presentation. Did you want to add anything to that, Rebecca?
No, I mean, I think that's it. Requesting sections is great if you have a sub in a classroom and you are providing resources for that classroom that has a sub, you can request access. Or like Catherine was saying, if you are a co-teacher that comes in to either co-teach with the teacher, or if you are providing EC services for students within the classroom, that's another great way that you can get access to everything that we're showing here. So like she said, we'd be happy to let you know how to do that. It's very simple, two-step process. So let us know if that is something that you would be interested in.
Okay. So the next tab, as Rebecca mentioned, is this is the tab that we can actually, as teachers, anyone with access to the student can add to this tab. Okay. So again, it has a year filter, which is very nice, but I'm just going to go through the pieces of this. What's great about this is all the information stays with the student. So if information were added to the learning plan and teacher notes for the student, it would then be carried through to the next year. Now, let me be clear. This is only something that teachers and leadership see. The students don't see this tab, and so if a parent was looking at the students' login page, they would not see this either. That's just how North Carolina has this set up. But let me just show you a few options here. So a couple years back, we did a little pilot of this. We took feedback from the field, and that's how these actual topics were created and loaded here, because it was just a consensus of what would be put here, basically. So parent log, this is a text box. You click add. I'm going to say spoke to parent, to mom, da 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 da. Don't know what we said, but I'm going to save it. Whatever comes out, and you're going to see the topic of discussion, who posted it, and the date it was created. It can be edited or removed, okay, saved, and then that becomes part of this profile record. Another option is student academic strengths and opportunities for improvement. Here again, this is a text box. Any information, saved, and who can remove the record? That's a good question. I believe that it is the person that entered that particular record, but I can double check that for you and get that information to Rebecca. Good question, though. Then so the categories are set up for academic behavior. Then there's an intervention section, and this is more of a checklist. And again, this was a consensus across the state when they looked at this at a pilot, but we're, add or remove concern or strategy. So basic math facts, I'm going to check one, and now that's going to appear here. Maybe, writing is not an issue, or we're going to track progress towards graduation. The other piece that I like at the bottom of this is within reason, because there is a certain limit, but you can upload documents as evidence here. So that can be placed, it's a regular find your file. Oh, I shouldn't have done that because it's going to spin. But click a file, save it, and it'll upload it to that space there. Okay. So those are certain features that what will happen is whatever maybe was created in 2019 would then be able to be searchable and looked back through the years for any subsequent teachers, etc., that have access to the students. Okay. The last piece on this before I show the profile export is the PMP tab. So
The most important tab.
the most important tab, I was just going to say that. So when you create a test, whether it be a classroom test, a benchmark test, or a school test, if you enable text to speech, I'm just going to use that as my example, text to speech for the test, students will not have access to text to speech in the test unless it is enabled here in the PMP tab. Very important. Text to speech accommodations are a two-part process. When the test is created, it needs to be enabled, and then it needs to be enabled in the student profile. Now, just to be clear, the student profile only needs to be done once in the beginning of the year. The tests, obviously, you're setting up each time you create a test, but you would click text to speech, hit save, and now this becomes permanent to the student's profile. Okay. Any questions about text to speech?
There's not a question there, but I do want to point out one thing with the PNP. Some districts or schools have someone do this for the teachers.
Oh,
Others do not. So if you click on a student's PNP and see that there is not anything checked, then I would assume that your school or district is one that does not do it for the teachers, and you can inquire about that. Um, but at least now you can see how you can turn those on for a student if your school or district does not have someone to do that for you at the beginning of the year.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the overview. And as Rebecca said, you have the ability to create a PDF. So you have a meeting with a parent, you have a child study team meeting, whatever it may be, you can create basically a paper form of this. So when you click create PDF, it takes you to a wizard. And here you can select minimal information or the maximum amount of information you would like to have in the report. So at this point, if I say I want to see benchmark test data, okay, I'm going to skip the profile, or maybe I include it, it's up to you. If you click overview data, that's going to give you that percentage score, raw score, score group. If you click detailed data, you're going to get each item of the test, just like we saw when I drilled into a test and Rebecca and I had to switch pages because my screen froze. But you would see each individual item. And that makes for quite a lengthy report, but just saying, you do have that option. So if I click benchmark data only, and then I can filter it. Um, I can say I only want math tests, or I want math and ELA, or I want all subjects. These are benchmark tests. I can say I want classroom tests. Maybe I want the detail on classroom tests. I can do again here, subjects, I can go by standards. Um, I can choose the standardized test. I can pull in information from the learning plan if I want, their enrollment record, their program data, etc. So I randomly clicked a few buttons while I was talking to you just to demonstrate. And then here I can click create PDF, and it's going to take a minute. It says your download will begin momentarily. If it does not start, click here, but mine did start, so it just finished downloading. I'm going to open it up. And come on, Adobe, you can do it. Okay, there we go. So you can see I only clicked summary data, but it's sorted by subject area. Gave me the test and date and time submission. The next page shows me their standardized test performance. There was a couple pages of that one. This was the learning plan where you saw I said spoke to mom and some nonsense typing there. I checked that example. And I mean, this could be conceivably probably 15 pages long if you want it. But based on what I chose, I got 4 pages out of it. And then I can just hit print and I can print this document, or I can save it as a PDF. But it is a nice feature that everything you've collected in the student profile, you have available to you. Okay. And I did include in the PowerPoint, there's a link that says viewing and printing student profile. So that has very detailed directions in the QRC on how to do this piece. Okay.
And we did have a few
Oh,
questions.
okay. I will pause then.
Which one is not with the learning plan, but I knew it would be easy for us to explain this. So one person is asking if we could explain the difference between my classroom, shared classroom assessments, and school assessments, and what type we should choose if team teachers need to see everything we can see. Um, so my classroom is only going to be for that teacher that created it to view. Um, Nobody else would be able to view that assessment if it's listed as a My Classroom. Um, Shared classroom assessments, not everyone uses. That's a setting that has to be turned on. Um, but that would be if you create an assessment and other teachers are going to make a copy of that assessment and give it to their students as well. But we do recommend doing co-authoring instead. Um, and then a school assessment is just created at the leadership level. If it's like a benchmark type assessment that someone with leadership is going to have several classes within a grade take. So that would be a school assessment. But if you need team teachers to see everything, I'm thinking you're talking about the data, then that's where you would want to request access to those sections. And I did put the directions for that in the chat. But Catherine, correct anything that I just said if that was not
Nope,
correct.
you were spot on. You got it.
Okay. And I apologize because when I hit enter, it submits my question. So that's why I had to put the two links in two separate chats. But it is a two-step process of requesting the section. The teacher initiates it with step one. And we put those directions in there for how to request the section. And then someone with leadership rights has to approve it, just so that people can't just request access to all these different sections that they don't actually need. So it does have to be approved by someone with leadership. And so it's a simple two-step process, but I did put those directions in there.
If your district is a district that uses Transcend and you would like to have that data rerouted here to the standardized test tab, please put in a ServiceNow case and I will get that to happen for you. Tom says, how quickly will the choices for PMP and accommodations go into effect? No, no, it's immediate. Oh, if a teacher realizes something in the test session, uh, I believe the child would need to log out of the test and log back in for it to take effect. Just to
and
re reboot the test, basically.
And if they've already submitted it, then you can reset the student's results if the teacher realized, like, if this, because I know this has happened to me before with my fifth graders. They submitted it and then they told me, like, oh, hey, it didn't read aloud to me. So if they've submitted it and the teacher didn't realize that that wasn't turned on, then you can reset their test and turn it on for them to be able to go back and take it again with those accommodations if needed.
Okay. And we have another question. If one teacher adds text to speech, does it apply for all SchoolNet tests? So, just to be clear, if the text to speech is enabled for this particular student, Sierra, that I have on the screen, if a test has text to speech enabled, Sierra would have access to it. But if there is not text to speech enabled in the reading test, we'll say, then there's not that option for the student. So it has to be enabled in two places, one in the test and the other in the profile. The profile would apply to all classes, but each test is an individual case on how the text to speech is treated in each test. Does that help with that question?
I think so, because oh, yep, perfect. Yeah, because I did have someone ask in the chat earlier if they have text to speech enabled in their profile, will it automatically come through with ELA because we know the students don't get read aloud for ELA. But yeah, you would have to check that on that individual test. So
Okay, good.
perfect. Okay, I think
Um,
that is all of our questions.
all right, great. So where did we leave off?
What can students add to a student profile? So we're
Let
in a
me
student view
log
now.
real quick. Most of you are familiar with the take a test. This is where they put the passcode in, the hit go, etc. Across here, if there is a calendar, a teacher could make an assignment, but this probably is something that we're not currently utilizing in North Carolina. I've never heard anyone discuss it with me, but they can look at one course or multiple courses. Obviously, this is the training site, so we're back years, and see if they have any assignments there. This My Student Profile was what I was referring to before. They can click on benchmark tests, and they pretty much see the same screen that we just went through from a teacher or an admin's view. Benchmark tests, classroom tests, dropping back years, looking by standards, or just by test scores. They also have this last scored test, and for some tests, if they are not restricted, again with the test restrictions, see this one says test restrictions. There's no review button because the content is restricted. But on this third grade chunk nonfiction passage 1, as the student, I can click review, and I can see I can't see the question because there's obviously some restrictions on it, so there's no view button here. But I can tell if I got the question. I'm told if I got the question correct, incorrect, how many points, and what question type it was. I can switch, and I can see which standards, and it will show me my points there. I can switch to classroom tests and work through my tests there. Now, again, that is based when you schedule the test. What the child gets to see here is all determined by what restrictions you place on the test. The other piece is the student workspace, which Rebecca had shown you a couple of minutes ago. I can hit launch, and I'm running out of time, right? Oops. Create a portfolio. I can call this writing and whatever I want to say about it. They can change colors, and then they get to link it to a class. They hit save, and they can create work. So if they have a writing piece, they can title it, and they can upload a file. So it basically becomes a portfolio within the system for the students. Okay.
And I know that's, oh, I'm sorry, Catherine, go ahead.
No, I was being quick because I just looked at the time as usual. I'm over time. Sorry.
We always go over it. It happens, but we're telling good information. So, but I know a lot of teachers, like, 'cause I know, just recently when I was in the classroom, we had student portfolios and we were using Google Drive, and the students would have that. But if you're doing student conferences where the student is leading their conference with their parent, just having students more involved in their data, then what a great place to put it in SchoolNet so that they can share their data with their parent. They can also show the portfolio where they're uploading items of like goals that they have, working towards whatever their goal is that they've set for themselves with the teacher, and it's just all in one place. So that's one great thing about the student workspace and students being able to create a portfolio is, it kind of puts them in charge of their own data, and it's all housed in one place. Not saying anything against using Google Drive, of course, if that's what your school wants you to use, but just know that this is an option so that it can all be together in one place.
I just put the bit.ly back in the chat in case someone joined late.
Here, we always list this out in our webinars. It's just a link to our resources. We've got the training site there for you. We have our YouTube channel with all of our recordings, and we do record all of these and post them on YouTube. We also have some training courses through Canvas. But to me, the most important one is this SchoolNet resources, where we have quick reference documents for you and all of the past presentations, whether it's YouTube or a Google presentation, that is all linked there for you. So you never have to wonder how to do something. Of course, you can always put in a service now or contact me, and we're happy to help. But if you click on that SchoolNet resources, then it's actually going to list out a lot of quick reference documents on every possible SchoolNet topic you could ever wonder about. And it's got screenshots and detailed directions of step by step how to access all of that. And then the ones that are listed beside it, those are just the most popular ones that people request. So that's why we have those there. But just know all of them are listed on that DPI SchoolNet resources link right there. All right. And our upcoming, oh, you're good.
Okay. I wasn't
Sorry.
sure where I should go.
Yep, our upcoming SchoolNet session. So I have marked out March since we have officially finished March with SchoolNet sessions, but we do have April and May coming up. April is going to be all things SchoolNet, all of your how do I questions answered. And what that means is that is going to be an interactive session where you log on and you pretty much tell Catherine and I what do you want to know how to do in SchoolNet? So that one's going to be an interesting session because if you're all silent and don't ask us any questions, it's going to not be a very good session. So we want you to join us and participate and let us know, what do you want to know how to do in SchoolNet? And it might be something that we say, oh, that is not a possibility. Or it could be something that we say, oh, that's a great idea. Let's see, like some things came up at home base meetups about people wanting dates for new content upload. And that was something that Catherine was able to do immediately and get it on the, oh gosh, what's it called? Splash page widget on SchoolNet. So we want you to join us and ask all of your SchoolNet questions so that we can get those answered. And then in May, we're actually going to do a repeat session. We're going to talk about how to create your own technology enhanced items. We did do this in January because we felt there was a need with the technology enhanced items being on the EOG and EOC for grade levels that haven't had that before. So we're going to actually do that session again, just so everyone is aware of how you can create your own technology enhanced items within SchoolNet. And you can register for those just like you did today. You can click on that link, or they are on your splash page as well in that top right hand corner. But now is the time for anyone who has not asked any questions to ask away. If you have all your questions answered, then we appreciate you so much for joining us today, and we apologize for going over time. But if you are with us usually each month, then you know that this is what happens. We go over each month just because y'all have such great questions, and we want to make sure we get those answered. So anyone that has additional questions, please hang around, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. But everyone else, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And Catherine and I hope that we see you in April.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, let's see if we get some questions.
A lot of thank yous. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
thank you. We appreciate you joining us. All right, let's see. So Diane's going to email me that. All right. Thank you for letting us know about VMP. Checking my students. Yes, Rosalind, I'm not sure if you are still on the call, but I have found that anytime that I'm doing a session with a district, or it might be that I just get an email from a teacher, and Catherine, I'm sure you see this too, that a lot of people, especially if they come in mid-year or their district did not do SchoolNet training or anything, they don't realize that that is there. So yes, we always want to make sure people know that that is where you can turn those accommodations on so that students are getting their IEP services with SchoolNet assessments. So glad you were able to join us and see and then check your students and get them those accommodations. Let's see. And Matthew, yes, if anything, Catherine and I are always transparent. We are just keeping it real over here. Okay, I think that was all those questions.
Yep.
All right, well, it looks like we still have a few in here, but I'm not sure if they are still with us or not. So I'm going to go ahead and close us out for today. But if you are still in the call and have a question, then please feel free to email me or put in a ServiceNow case. And you can just put attention to Catherine if you have a specific question for her. But we, again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in April.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Rebecca. Talk to you soon.